Hey everybody, and Roger, what's our episode 76? 75, great. Hi everybody, my name is Norman Fang, and if you are new with us, this is how I started a nursery, 1986, and the same property. We only have one location in America. Anyway, so today, initially, I was going to talk about the winter care of the Phalaenopsis. But as I prepare for the talk, and I think really hard to do a segment because we have so many different kinds. So last minute, I changed the subject to standard type. Okay, so there's no novelty. We do novelty maybe another week. But the standard type is what is happening right now. How many of you have the standard type? The standard type means the big flower, the U Phalaenopsis, like this type. Okay, not a novelty, not the miniature one. The standard type is almost like everybody's first orchid. This is the most common type that you will see at grocery store or chain store because they are fast growing versus some other orchid. And this is also actually the development of the standard type Phalaenopsis actually started a lot in California back in the 50, 40. They've been using a lot of the species and then getting bigger and bigger. So initially they actually use it for corsages, for boutonniere. Actually the Phalaenopsis that is very popular now. A nice cascading spray. And the other day I saw a price of bouquet. This lady just have a bundle of 5 spray. And that's her wedding bouquet, instant wedding bouquet. And my nursery actually sell a lot of cut flower, where we sell cut spray. And when we got the order, we will actually cut the flower spike, and we cut it that way. A lot of time, if you have your own Phalaenopsis, you cut it, and you can have minimum 2 to 3 weeks as a cut spike. So Phalaenopsis, the standard type, they usually, well, this one is for this one might look familiar to you. This is actually the last two of the one I named after one of our members, Linda Lee Earl. Okay, Linda, remember this? I think this earlier this year we had this. It was in early February, March, and guess what? That one finished, and this is the second spike on the same plant this year. 2 spikes a year, and I created my own, follow my resin, Mega Dry fertilizer. Normally it's optimum fertilizer. Okay, this is what it counts. You know, you can use whatever you like on the fertilizer to make sure the fertilizer does not have urea in there. So this is the perfect example of the flower has been blooming the second year. Okay, so this is, so it's very normal if you are just growing Phalaenopsis. At the end of the fall season, if you see any of this yellow leaf, that is okay. This is part of the growth process. Okay, so a lot don't call 911 and don't call Karen. This is part of the senescence, the growth process. So what I usually do at this time of the year at the fall, I'm going to use this as an example. The root system, Roger, can you focus kind of close on the root? The root is still very good. Okay, because I remember, I always say, once a month, we drench, then we 5 cents, a teaspoon per gallon of water, we drench them, so it will disinfect the fungus and the moss in there. So moss is actually very clean and it's very sterile. Look at it, they still have very good, there's no rotting on the root area. So at this time of the year, you need to do what I call house cleaning. Okay, but make sure you always clean your tool. 1 torch per plant. You do not want to contaminate your plant. Okay, I will leave this new viable root here. So what I usually do this time of the year, you can actually trim off. You can peel it off or you can trim it. Cut off all this, all the dry spike already. Because the dry spot, there's a possible of this area, they might create a host for fungus. And this is the time, see, this is from this summer, so this is nice and firm and plump. I like to give it it's up to you. Some people like to leave it alone. I like to give it a haircut because this is actually done the purpose. It's not as firm, so I was actually trim off the old spike, the old root. Anything that is not firm, like this is soft already, I will trim this off. Okay, it doesn't have any. I like kind of like discipline on this. Then the one that is actually this summer nice and firm, you can actually, that's okay, bend it, twist the pot, and put the pot inside if you like. Okay, so now it's just okay. Okay, so now, see, this is what I like about this. A well-fed Phalaenopsis, standard type, a good light, good nutrient, self-supporting. We do this, but the flower spike is actually good for them because a lot of the time they'll be so heavy. And this is the time to really groom your plant. And I usually like to cut it right below the first flower. Roger, can you see this? Below the first flower. You can use bamboo, you can make metal wire. Okay, right below the first, this is the first flower, right below the first flower here. And the reason I do that is as the flower open up, they're gonna heavy. And then the weight will give it a nice, or the weight later on will give it a nice cascading effect. Okay. All right. So after that, you need a small discipline. Here's another Linda Lee Earl. Same thing. Okay. It's been flower. Remember, this is the second year they flower, so it's actually okay because just it have as many flower as the springtime because it's very healthy, very well fed, and we did a good job on this. So this is actually just you just do what we did earlier. This is before and after. Then they look a lot more presentable. Okay, and this is what happened when you do this because the holiday is coming. You may have guests coming. This will make the plant more presentable. And if you have an orchid show coming up, this one here always get a blue ribbon because judges do not like this undisciplined presentation. Okay, how are we doing so far? Okay. And how many of you have Phalaenopsis, the big standard one, starting to spiking right now? Have you? Okay. This is the time. The standard Phalaenopsis need to have a day and night difference, minimum 15-degree difference. So this is the time actually if you having not flower, or if you have any standard type Phalaenopsis, they just all green, never flower. First of all, if possible, is the light quality. Where you put them is too dark. If the light is not the problem, the second thing is the feeding. They are, we are what we eat. So maybe the fertilizer you have had too much nitrogen. For example, there are people still using the 30-10-10, 30% nitrogen, 10% phosphate, and potassium. That is really dated formulation. And that formulation, you had to, I think you had like 3 times of the 30-10-10, and the force feeding, you had to use 6-30-30. The reason people still selling that kind of formulation, because they can sell you 2 fertilizer instead of just 1. Okay, this is why when I in the business so long, when my local customer always said, "Norman, what do you use?" I said, I do my own formulation, because I have so many thousands of orchids I have from A to Z. I do not have the time, the effort to keep changing the fertilizer just for 1 crop or 1 species and that. And besides, in the 90s, when we do tissue culture, it's all about the growing media, in vitro. And that's when I start to have a chance. For 3 years at UC Riverside, we tested. So I call this the UC Riverside mix to formulate in vitro the optimum orchid nutrient for the 5 major genus. So that everything is 1 package formulation. You got vitamin B1, you got micronutrient, you got essential micronutrient and macronutrient. There's no urea in there. So if you're having, if the feeding is not a problem, then consider repotting them. For example, this is the perfect example. This is a big standard white with red lip. Okay, and it haven't been having flower yet. Okay, there's 2 ways I can do with this. I can move them out of that location, and because they will do over the summer. You got warm day and warm night. It's growing beautiful, beautiful. Look at the root. This is what Megaply does. Beautiful. They're very, very healthy. Okay, so there's 2 ways I can do this. If you have a greenhouse, I can move this closer to the swamp cooler or the pad. That's going to be really cold. That's where the water comes from. So that is enough to shock them if it's a greenhouse. Or right now, I can also move it outdoor under the patio, cover it, because right now in Southern California, at night temperature drop down to 55, 58, but it's not too long. So I can actually, you can move the orchid to your any location. Just make sure it's not below 50 degrees, and minimum 55, 58. Leave it dry, put it outside for 2 weeks. You can put it in your laundry room where there's no heater in there, so they're still protected. Mark it on your calendar. Leave it there for 2 weeks. Don't water. Leave it on the dry side. Okay, then it really shock the plant. Okay, it can be outside too. It can really shock the plant. Then moving in the greenhouse or move it in your under light location. A lot of times when people go under light, your room temperature in a house, because whether it is air conditioning or heater, they may not have that much differentiation. So this is what you can do, because a lot of times under light is really good for the novelty. We want to keep it as warm as possible. But the warm day and warm night for standard type Phalaenopsis is telling the plant to remain as a vegetative stage like this. So this is a shock. And another technique that you can use and also is repotting them. So this is what I did. I just take it up, and because the moss is doing well, I just simply put it in the bigger pot and fill them up. I take out the top moss, anything is rotting or any algae, take it out, and then you can repot it to a bigger pot. And I think I did this on another segment about 3 weeks ago. Okay, so during those time, this plant has not been watered. Okay, so that is actually telling the plant a little bit a stress is part of the good flower induction. So this is really nice. Roger, can you see this? Because I did not water them. Okay, remember I always say less is more. By not watering them, because moss is pretty moist and they will dry, so that there's a remember at the meantime we also we had the mega dry twice a week. It's sending out a fresh new root to coming up. So once I see this nice and root coming up, this is by after 2-3 weeks, this is it. This is ready to do the first watering. And at home, I like, if I do it for myself, I like the clay pot because clay pot is nice. Clay pot is breathable. Okay, it's breathable, unlike the Gray's Serenity pot. Clay pot is breathable. If you are Pacific Northwest or Northeast in Boston, for example, your problem always did not dry out in the winter time. So this with a clay pot is your solution. Okay, so when the plant starts spiking, for example, this is the standard type. It's beautiful. Look at it. This is the a lot of times people will say, what's the perfect stage to spike? I usually, if we have time, we will start to spike as soon as about 6 to 8 inches before the first pea-sized bud. Okay, so this is another example. Because you don't want to stage too late. Once you see a flower bud for the standard type is pea-sized bud, this is a good timing to do the staging. Because if you stage too late and the flower have open, then you spike it, then flower is gonna flip upside down. So this is for the standard type. Right now, you do a lot of grooming and a lot of grooming. Now there's some. I'm gonna what I was prepared for this talk. I come across some of the potential, what I see problem. Okay, let me see this one. Let's see. Anybody want to guess what happened? Roger, can you focus on this here? Okay, and I saw also come with this one here. This is not unusual. Okay, especially when we have so many orchids here. And so I know what's going on is when we have, I don't spray fungicide, but we do have to hire a pesticide applicator to do pesticide. So this is the time the flower spike was really short. The growing tips got maybe the person who sprayed, remember, this is happened probably about 2 months ago in the middle of the summer. Okay, remember I always say before you spray any pesticide, any chemical, you always want to make sure to water the plant the day before. Okay, so this is the case. Luckily, maybe 100 plants, maybe a couple of them had this situation. The reason being, the plant was dry. So in the same application, when the potting media is dry, the moss is dry, and the pesticide got sprayed on the tip or the growing tip here, they absorb too much, and this is actually caused by pesticide. Okay, so we had to go back to see what kind of stuff, but it's part of. So this is why it's a lot easier when you at home because you don't have as many plants. So when you do spray for mealybug, for pesticide, be careful. If you have a flower spike, try to avoid to spray on the growing spike. especially the growing tip, and this is caused by it. So what can I do with this one here? This one here is a mess. This is actually see this hook here. I will just take this one out because you do this case by case. It looks like the flower spike here still very nice and developing. So this is okay. I just pinch off the one kind of the hook here. Okay, and this one here, by all means, you know, by mistake, it become a pendulum of spiking. And what about this one, Roger? Can we see this one here? This one here have a lot more difficult because this is what happened when we had to be very careful when we have flower spike. I don't think this is going to be a normal flower. You see over here, the apical meristem kind of fuse together. Okay, don't waste your energy. I'm not going to waste the energy on the plant because even if they flower, they can be have all messed up. I'm going to just cut off this, throw away the tips, then just let the two flower open, and these two flower will be normal. And then when the two flower open, I can cut it as cut flower, or this will be nice and two flower here. You can use it for bouquet, a nice water dish for a dinner party, or for me, I can also remember this is a nice fresh flower spike. Okay, you can also cut it off. Because by doing so, you can also do it when the two flower open. You can have a secondary spike emerging from any of this cut surface. So okay, so it will be probably from here. So we're going to have a secondary spike out of there. So this plant will become very similar like this. You see here, Roger? Can we see this? This was tip, and Phalaenopsis are monocot, and the flower spike is what we call the apical dominant. When we cut this off, we release the apical dominant, and this will branch out. So you have more spike. This one here is not going to do anything. I will just pinch them off. Okay, so now all the energy will flow out here, and this is what lots of time we do for the secondary spike on the standard type. Okay. Woohoo. Here is the standard white. Okay, this is a good discipline. Very good. Once you have the standard type into one location, try not to move them. Because sometimes we have so many greenhouses, we're constantly moving orchid from one greenhouse to the other, and if you move them when their flower buds are sitting, this is what happened. You see here? The flower are kind of not present the same way. All right. The flower used to be that way, but we got moved, and so the flower become this way. So once the flower piece like this, do not move them. Try not to. If you move it to a different location, the flower spike, the growing tip is going to follow the sun, and all this flower is going to twist a different way. So this is why the presentation of the flower on the standard will be twisted, and this is a perfect example. Okay. So standard type is a lot of grooming, a lot of preparation right now. What about this one here? This is actually a perfect case of too many of the good thing. This is the plant, just really, we did a good job, and Judy did such a good job. The plant genetically have, she already spotted here, okay? And the plant just love to branch, look at it. And that's a lot of times that's what happened with Megathrice. Megathrice really release the potential of all the possible. Remember Megathrice, in the weather changes, they're gonna have more female hormone, cytokinins. Cytokinin is the release for the responsible of the flowering. So this is I think this is a case. I'm gonna break this off because it's still a very young plant. This is only about 3-4 years old. This might have more flower, but in Asia, especially in Japan, if I want to, they like to have all one flower spike. Look at the Phalaenopsis white, 32 flower per spike. How they do it? They break off all the side branch, because all the side branches, and now all this nutrient is going to this. So now I can expect about 12 to 18 flowers on this spray, versus with the energy got spread up, you might have 2 flowers here, 2 flowers here, and maybe only 6 flowers here. Okay, so depending on what you're looking for. For us, we like it, and sometimes because we do it for flower arrangement, we want to have as many flowers and nice and arching. So this will be nice and cascading for you. But if you like to have branching for the show effect, you can leave it there. Okay, so that, but in judging, like in orchid judging, for example, American Orchid Society, the disparting of branches is not allowed because we cannot manipulation. But for horticulture, just like daffodil or different type of judging or camellia, when they do for judging, the disparting for them is actually allowed. Okay, all right. Hey, Brandon. Okay, so this here's another one. I just bring this up here. I will just branch this off because standard type Phalaenopsis, this side branches is such a pipe. It's maybe just got 1 flower. We branch this off, and then this is what a lot of my staff do. They go to the branches, they actually branch out the branch. This is actually all part of, we grow this for our Eric gift department. All this is going to be for Christmas. So we want to have a maximum nutrient go to this flower spike, get the maximum effect on the size of flower. So instead of 12-inch, 12-centimeter flower, focus on all the nutrient into 1 flower spike, you can get 15 centimeter, for example. All right. Now, Roger, look at this. These are all the same clone. Okay. I'm going to show this one, for example. This is actually grow at different greenhouse. Okay. They both of them are Norman Smith. Okay. But this one only has 3 flowers. See, it's so tall. That's okay. This is the one that actually grow in a very warm greenhouse, warm day and warm night. So in the summertime, when we had that many hours, 16 hours a day, and that this is growing in another greenhouse that we actually have computer control, and we stimulate the temperature very similar to like springtime. So even at night, the greenhouse fan will come up and cool the greenhouse to night temperature, the difference between day and night difference. So they actually grow in very similar weather, like cool, and this is in the summertime. So this is the result, and this might be happen a lot if you are in Florida. So this is, what do I do with this now? Okay, first of all, it's a beautiful, healthy plant. Okay, there's two ways we can do it. I can cut the entire spike off, or one, two, three, four, right below the first flower, I can actually trim them down here, and I can use this as a cut flower. Look at this, is the size of flower. Because all the energy is only on the 3 flowers. Look, it's really big. So now this one here can have a secondary spike now. Okay, then I can also, if this is a nice plant, I can also decide it. I can peel the skin off, and propagate them. Then I can use my 2-in-1 cakey paste, because sometimes I want to trade plant with other people. I do not have the toothpick here. Over here, see, you have to remove the cakey, the step here. I'm gonna do one here, and then it will give me 2 cakey, because the plant is very strong. Okay, and then I can have propagation on this one here, because this one here is one of the really exceptional large ones, so I do want to get some cakey. This is a lot faster versus try to cut the stem, send it to laboratory, and like a really long process. The cakey is an exact duplicate. That's the best way, even better than tissue culture. Okay, all right. Here's another case study. Okay, beautiful 2 spike, but this is another case. I think the apical meristem stopped growing. Okay, so what you can do is cut off the tips, and then to release, do it about 1 inch above the bottom here. Then you release the apical dominant, so they release the pressure, so these 2 will be branch out nicely for you. And then this one here have another 3rd spike coming. For us, we do not keep the 3rd spike. This is just going to be insufficient. They're going to take out, so I want more nutrient to go to this 2 spike here. All right, so this is what you do. A lot of grooming, a lot of observation on this. And this is a very beautiful that we spike early enough. And now it's cut below the 1st flower. And this is a beautiful crown. We do not do too much. This is the sunset gem, a beautiful orange color. And I pride myself, we did a good job. We time it. It's perfect for a Halloween. An orange flower for Halloween, and this is what I do. This is part of plant physiology. Plant physiology is timing for floriculture, and luckily for Phalaenopsis, we can time. You cannot do that with Cattleya. You cannot. It's hard. You cannot do it with Cymbidium, but the standard Phalaenopsis fit the model for timing for cropping, and I was the first person to figure this out back in 1982 when I was 20 years old. So I did the model, and now the history. And I teach a lot of nursery. The nursery may change how to crop the Phalaenopsis as a crop. Okay, and this is another beautiful one. I think this is the one that Aunt Judy was doing some testing, and you can do some wiring and to kind of bend them. Okay, for some effect. Okay, and here is one. I kind of borrowed this from Aunt Judy. This is brought in by one of our clients for us to do repotting for her. Okay, so this is what not to do. Overall, still good, but I think her cleaning lady watered too much when she was on vacation. So there's a lot of leaf discoloration problem. So before we do anything for repotting, this is a perfect example. Is I would not let the flower to spike to blooming the second time, even though there is the short emerging spike here. But this is the case. I would just, to save the plant, cut it all the way down, all the way down to the base here. And then do a really good haircut. Cut off any of this all tire spike on the top. The discipline here. Okay, this is her housewife did the trimming, and I'm going to leave it alone because there's no infection. It just doesn't look good. And then this, I was actually going to call the client, and I'm gonna suggest not to repot because if I repot them right now, it's going to disrupt the root system. So instead of repotting them, you can tell she is not getting enough light for the orchid. So they need to go home. And we're probably going to put it in the greenhouse for a couple of weeks. You know, this is a good client of ours. Let it make sure they get enough light on perk up. This is the case of the plant do not get enough light. So once you get more light, a lot of time in the summertime because it's hot, we always tell people, hey, stay away from the window. Okay, we'll move back. But now, it's in the fall now. It's cooler. The light intensity is not as strong. So now you can actually put it closer to the window. Okay, getting more light. More light is actually going to help them to induce the flower spike. So a lot of this spike, this should be the next flower spike should be come from here. So this is the case not to repot. In fact, unless you have to, right now is not the time to repot any of your novelty Phalaenopsis or standard Phalaenopsis because unless you go under light, because in the natural setting, the daylight is getting shorter and shorter. The flower, the physiology of the plant is going to say, well, we're not going to the vegetative stage now. We're going to go into the flower stage. So they are getting ready to flower. But if you set the repotting, it disrupts the root. On the Phalaenopsis, what I have learned since for 30, 40 years, they're very stubborn plant. They cannot do two plants. They can only do one thing at a time. Either if they are doing rooting, they do the rooting. If they're doing spiking, they will have all the energy on the flower spike versus put it on new root. So they cannot do two things at a time. They're not like human us. Okay, so in this perfect case, I'm going to tell the client, call the client, I'm not going to repot it, but I will put it in the greenhouse, get them better light, and then feed them. I don't think they got feed when she was on vacation. Got fed. So this is a case of too dark and no feeding, and it's just water. It's just too dark. Okay, and the plant like this is when they are soft like this, it very subject to pathogen. So try not to spray the leaf, and because the water must stay in the crown, and they're so soft, they are very, even with if your lady has fingernail, it might have scratches, and that is the opening for pathogen entrance. Okay. Alrighty. And I believe I covered everything on the standard Phalaenopsis. So right now on your standard Phalaenopsis, in conclusion, okay, you need to get in more light now. Okay, the standard Phalaenopsis, the leaf is like succulent. Okay, they're thicker. You can move them closer, or even if you have under light, depending on your light intensity, you can actually raise your high level to close it, and then reduce it when you have a flower spike. By putting closer to the light, you get more light that way. So more light. Check the watering. Okay, the light intensity, the temperature will be cooler, so you don't have to water as much as in the summertime. And if you're growing moss, always check it out. You can do it by weight, or do the moss always dry from the bottom up. Never let the moss dry all the way up. You can there do all the way up, but it's harder to water. You can have to soak the plant for like 30 minutes on this, and then this is the time. Even in flower, make sure on your calendar, do not mix the feeding. And a lot of time, even the moss is still wet. And this is why the fertilizer, Norman's Ultimate Nutrient, is so nice. We do it as a foliar feeding. You make out a solution, and fertilizer is not mega dry. Fertilizer, once you dilute it, it can last 2-3 weeks, no problem. Okay. Do a foliar feeding. Even though the moss is wet, but the nutrient very refined, they can absorb through the leaf. You can spray the flower stem too. And even from the tree side, the orchid nutrients is okay. But if you have to spray pesticide, trying to avoid the growing tip, okay, so you don't have any pesticide overdose on them. Okay, ready? And this is also the time, the pressure for mite. I know a lot of people have mite problem this year. It's everywhere. Mite dry on hot and dry. So right now, it's cooler, it's moisture. Mite population or mite infestation will be decreased. A lot of time, even if you taking care, as long as if the mite, you do not have see any orange, light, that's light moss, not light mite. The trouble with mite infestation is, even if you got it taken care of, you will leave a scar. It will be there. So that's okay, because that as long as you get them plump up, the leaf are getting new leaf. Eventually, those old leaf will fall off. Okay, so I have something in the work that I would be testing behind the scene, some of the pesticide or organic way of pesticide that can work with mite. So I do not like to recommend anything that I haven't tested myself for at least a year, and I want to make sure it's also safe to use at home. There are a lot of stuff that is really nasty. For example, there used to be a really good pesticide called Saigon. Okay, be careful. Do not use Saigon. Saigon has been banned in California, but you can buy it in Florida. But that stuff never used at home. even though I know some people use it, oh, I leave it outside and drench it and then put it inside. No, Saigon is actually reported it causes cancer. So even if you drink it outside and you take it in the house, that stuff is in the moss, they evaporate, and then you bring it into your house. So be very careful. We want to grow orchids as a hobby, but we don't want to live with the hard pesticide or fungicide on that. So, and that is what I use with my recommendation. We do always do a proper spacing of your orchid, and then do an inspection of your leaf. Check the underleaf. Okay, and your plant cannot talk to us, but it will show. You can tell the plant is happy or not by the leaf color, by how nice and green the firm on the foliage on this. So check out all your Phalaenopsis on the novelty standard type. They should be getting ready to spiking now. So if you have not seen spike yet on your white or the standard pink, do something. Move them location, check out your water schedule, make sure you check out your fertilizer, what you've been feeding them. Okay, make sure that does not have a lot of nitrogen, that is that urea base already. So I think that will conclude today's session on the standard type. I know standard type maybe sounds easy, but this is actually some of the tips that you should look